I'm fat and I have opinions. So,
I'm fat and I feel very happy eating a whole Nirula's hot chocolate fudge at a go. So,
I'm fat and I also love food. So,
I'm fat and I fantasize about meeting past crushes in a thin revenge body and rejecting their advances. So,
I'm fat and I love to dance. Sexy dance, dirty dance, all dance. So,
ooh, I'm fat and I love compliments about the way I look. So,
welcome to Fatso, the podcast where we talk about the joys and sorrows of being fat women in India. Heavy on the joy. I'm Ameya.
and I'm Pallavi. And in this first episode, we're going to tell you about our experiences with being fat, what this podcast is all about, and why we want to do this.
Okay, so Pallavi, you're the brain master behind this podcast. So, why did you want to do it?
Well, Amaya, what I found was that in my journey, when I started talking about my experience as a fat woman, how I felt, what it did for me or did not do for me, it had an impact. And I started feeling that this just had to be done, it just had to be said, as well as the fact that sometimes it does get lonely and isolated. It used to far more than it does now. And in a world where sometimes I feel that this world will never work with my body, or that there's not enough said about the Indian experience, and I just wanted to be able to talk about it.
Well, with me, I guess a lot of the themes are quite similar. Like, whenever I use the word fat, when I say I'm fat, everybody is like, no. I'm like, bro, excuse me. Have you looked at me? I know I'm fat. What do you mean, no? Like, they act like I'm calling myself a murderer, or something like that. And I just was like, no, this is not okay. And my friends have slowly gotten used to it and stuff like that. So it feels like I need to not be honest about myself to say that yes, I'm fat, because other people feel bad. So I'm like, oh, you shouldn't feel bad because deep inside you agree with the absolutely normal fact of the fact that I am fat. So I shouldn't call myself fat. So I have to pretend that I'm not, but I am. And it's just like a big mess. And I just feel like the more people talk about this, the better. Indian women, our experience with fat is as problematic as anybody's, of course. But I mean, we also have this weird paradox, right? In Indian culture, the aunties will be like, beta kitne patle ho rahe ho, or khao, right? Or they'll be like, healthy nahi ho beta. Well, okay, in the north, in the south, they don't say it like that, but still. And on the other hand, it's this whole, oh, but you're fat, so you have to be a Benji. You have to be an auntie. Like, it's just schizophrenic on some level. So I felt like it was really cool to talk about, and talking to you about this and all the other ladies about this, it really made me feel like it's so important to have this voice out there. Like, when I was 18 years old, I if I had had somebody telling me, hey, it's okay, it's just an adjective, you're fat, it's not the end of the world, you'll be fine, it
Mhm.
would have been so amazing. So, I kind of wanted to make this time machine and go back and tell her that, which I can't. But hopefully, by doing this, there are 18-year-olds today, or 10-year-olds, or 59-year-olds, and they can all hear this too. So, that's really why I wanted to do it.
Coming to the part of how this whole genesis of this happened,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
The gathering. So, our amazing friend who
Yes.
organizes these gatherings and on various subjects, and Facebook, she's Gather Around Sisters.
Yes. On Instagram, she's Gather Sisters, and on Twitter also.
Yes, and
Yes.
must be followed. Really fantastic.
Yes.
When she asked me to do a gathering for plus size women, it was an aha moment because I was a closet body positivity sort of person, right? Just my Instagram handle and no other
I
exposure.
mean, how messed up is it that you have to be closet about accepting your body? Like,
Yes,
what?
yes. But anyway, so it was such an empowering moment, and I'm so grateful to her for having brought that out. And while I'd done the whole preparation for the gathering, I didn't know how it would be, how we would interact with each other. And I don't know if you recall, but there was a moment after we did the initial exercises, etc., when we were doing the intros,
Yeah.
when literally it was like the whole room paused and took this deep breath.
Yeah.
And it was literally like we all realized that we got each other. That whatever we were saying, we didn't have to explain,
Yes.
the.
Yeah, and you don't have to explain or apologize or any of that. And
Yes.
I mean, that's also kind of why it was like we were supposed to do short intros, and poor patient Pallavi was like, everybody was talking for 20 minutes, and it was like this burst dam just pouring out of us.
Absolutely.
Because we finally felt we had a safe space where we didn't have to be careful what we said because other people might feel bad. Like, it was amazing.
It was beautiful, and we were there till 3:30.
in
What
the
you
in the
don't
morning.
know is that I got home at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I wrote for 2 hours after that. This whole
Wow.
concept of why we must talk about our experiences, why it's important to share, why it's important to have more gatherings, and, for people like us, because you say something like, oh, I get up and the chair got up with me. And you don't have to explain how in that moment you felt ashamed, you felt,
Yeah.
it was funny, you felt like you
And
wanted to hide, but then,
and you
you just
also,
have to deal with it as it
yeah, yeah,
is.
absolutely. And like, you don't have to say, oh, I don't like that restaurant because the chairs have arms. Like, I mean, even here in the studio, they have nice chairs, but they have arms. And so
Arms.
sweetly, we're like, fetch us chairs without
Without
arms. We
arms.
don't do arms on chairs, right? But
Right.
yeah,
So that was the genesis of this. And of course, the conversation that we had after that, where
yeah,
we found that it would be just fabulous if we could do this
something
together.
like this. So, what is your history with fat?
If I want to talk about myself, then I will actually start with 2014.
Cool.
Because in 2014, I literally stepped into a parallel universe where I found plus size modeling and pictures of Tess Holiday. For me, it was a parallel universe because the thought that anybody could be comfortable with a body like this and say it to the world that I'm comfortable was just, it was something that I could not even have dreamt of.
Mm-hmm.
And I went berserk. I searched Tess Holiday. I looked at all of the adipositivity photographs by Substantia Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, body of work. I read books by Virgie Tover, Reagan Chaston. Much later, I came across this radio show by Kathleen Pause, who's a fat researcher and body
Mm-hmm.
activist in New Zealand. And so I just immersed myself in the work that all of these people were doing. And they were talking about how we are fat people, but we exist. And it is all right to accept ourselves as we are. Now, so I then started with the whole plus size modeling and taking photographs of myself and sending them out and so on and so forth. But I felt I wasn't completely there because I felt this was just on the surface. Because what do you do with the fact that a fat body is seen as an unhealthy body? And around that same time, I went for something called the Walk of Hope. And I was walking 25 to 30 kilometers within 5 to 6 hours in this fat body. And I could do it. Of course, it took me longer. I was slower. I did have blisters and stuff like that, but I did it. And it got me questioning this whole thing that, fat is unhealthy. And at the same time, the universe delivered to me this book by Linda Bacon called Health at Every Size. And I just knew that I was on the right path. It's been an incredible 4 or 5 years since then. But from owning who I am and my body and saying I'm okay as I am, it has led to so many changes in my life, whether it is the clothes that I wear or the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I'm willing to put really dark
Okay, you
lipstick.
guys can't see this, but Pallavi's fashion is on point.
Thank you. Thank you. And it went on to deciding that I didn't want to be in a marriage that wasn't working for me,
Mm-hmm.
but letting go of that, whole thing of what if nobody else loves me? There were so many things that I realized I was waiting to lose weight to claim my life,
Oh, God, yeah.
you know? And if I go into my past, I was fat from the age of 5, and I was on a diet at the age of 5, you know. Fat was the reason for everything. I had childhood incontinence, which was because of other reasons, but it was because I was a fat child. And if you look at my photographs as a 5 year old, there is nothing fat about that 5 year old, you know. It went on to being bullied at school, being made fun of at school, everything. It didn't matter how talented I was, it didn't matter how intelligent I was, it didn't matter what I achieved. It was all against this whole thing that as long as you're fat, there's something seriously wrong with you. There's no self control. If you fall, it's because you're clumsy. Everything was juxtaposed against my being fat. I remember my dance teacher told me, "You're the most graceful girl in my class and you're the most talented girl in my class, but I will not put you on stage because who wants to see a fat girl dance?"
See, this is something I get all the time. People tell me, you're so graceful when you dance, you walk so lightly. I'm like, what do you think, I'm an elephant? Like, why are you so surprised by this?
Exactly.
And, yeah, I hear all of this.
Yeah. And the other thing was the whole thing about love and relationships and men. It was scary to have a crush on somebody because if somebody found out that I had a crush on this guy, they'd tease him mercilessly.
Yeah.
So forget me getting the boy. It was out of the question. I still remember, in India, we have this thing of 12th graders. Once they finish school, everybody writes on their
Yeah,
shirts
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. And I was so excited that day. I had all my friends write on my shirt. And I did this brave thing of going to the back of the bus and telling the cool guy to write something on my shirt. And he wrote it on my back. And then he said to me, "You know what I've written? I've written, I would like to tell you to use condoms, but who would ever fuck you?"
Oh, Jesus.
I burnt that shirt. It was so, there was so much of all of this. You won't get married, you won't find love, you won't get a job, or if you get a job, you won't hold on to it, you won't have friends. So much of that,
And you start to believe it.
you believe it.
You start to believe it. Like, that's the really fucked up thing. You just believe it.
Right. So that was the backstory.
Well, I
And
mean, all of these things. I mean, I'm sitting here and you guys can't see this, of course, but I'm nodding like a psycho. I'm kind of scared I'm going to knock the mic over. But it comes down to I have that sentence too that a boy said to me that I was in love with. He was my first love. And he knew, but we were friends and he didn't have feelings for me and that's okay. And then one day we were at a party and he kissed me and I was like, and then the next day he was all weird and I was like, what? And then this happened like twice at least. And then, just before I left Delhi to go back home to my master's and stuff, and I didn't know when I would see him again. It was like, okay, moment of bravery. And I'm like, dude, what's happening? Like, why do you kiss me? And he's like, well, you're only attractive when I'm drunk. Holy crap. It took me, I'm not even shitting, 11 years to get over that one sentence from this pimply 19-year-old boy who, let's be fair to him, probably didn't even realize how much he was fucking my head up, right? And it wasn't him who started it. It was all those kids in school who, oh, Ameya's talking to a boy. Let's tease him. Let's humiliate him. Oh, it's so easy to lose your friends. And I mean, you become radioactive, and no one wants to be around you. And I mean, with me, I guess I hit fat like when I was 8 or 9 or something, and it was just food. I really liked food. I was a brat. I would not listen to the word no. So I ate a lot. And I became damn fat, but I was like, I don't care. And then, the parents, the what are you eating, and don't eat those French fries, and go for a run. And it basically meant that I have a deeply fucked up relationship with food. It's very hard for me to eat with my parents. Okay, I'm 37, I've had lots of therapy, I can do it now. But even 10 years ago, it was really hard for me to eat at the table with my family. And like, even now, when they say, did you work out today? I'm like, why do you care? And then I'm like, no, sorry, I know you don't mean it that way. But it's the immediate reaction I have to them. And they only really, really do it out of love. So, yeah, and this is the body I have. I don't even remember myself in another body. I've always, in the present time, been like, fuck, this is my fat, fugly body. And then I look at pictures from 15 years ago and I'm like, hey, I was thin. But it was not thin, I was thinner, right? And it's such a mess because maybe 10 years from now, I look at pictures of myself today when I'm at my fattest and my most, personally upsetting size. and be like, oh my God, I was thinner. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But the very fact that this is the only way I relate to pictures of myself, I don't see it and say, oh my God, I have this great smile on my face. Damn, that was a great concert. No, it's like, I was thinner. Like, what? That is wrong. And when you're a kid who's fat, I mean, when you're fat, everybody is in your face about it. So people would walk down the street and say, Moti. People would walk up to me and say, oh, eat this, try this patta, like go on this diet. And my poor dad, the number of crazy diets he's tried to prove to me that they work. He tried to bribe me with Barbie dolls. He said 1 Barbie doll per kilo. Even that didn't work. So it was really, really hard. And it started to change for me when I lived in the US. I lived in New York for a couple of years. And for the very first time in my life, I had space in society. I could buy clothes in a store. I always say I'm not a shopaholic. Should see me at Target. And there are men who are like, who think I'm hot, like legitimately hot. I thought I would be like a virgin forever. No, that's not what happened. And
That's the amazing part, right? When going from that space of men, because I mean, I've been married, so I
yeah,
have had men who, in their own way, loved me. But I always felt they loved me in spite of my body.
correct.
And therefore, my standards or my boundaries were really low because it was like a favor.
Yeah, yeah,
And when you emancipate yourself or when you start believing in yourself, you actually find that there are men who love you, all of you, and your body. So
correct.
that's a different experience.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, the transformative part of it was that my body was no longer an object of disgust for myself or for other people. And possibly it wasn't that much of an object of disgust for other people. I don't know, but it sure felt like it. So I came back to India and I was like, I dance salsa, I dance tango, I climb
Hmm.
stairs, I do everything. I'm fucking awesome. But still, no love, huh? Because who's going to love a fat girl, right? And anyone who gives her whatever he calls love, whatever 5 minutes of attention, she has to be so pathetically grateful for it. And the worst part, I am sitting here, I am saying this, I did this last year.
Oh,
I would probably do it again the next time a halfway not horrific man is
no,
nice to
we've
me
met
for an hour.
now.
I mean, this is just who it is. So I sit here now and I'm reaching a stage where genuinely I have this moment, the space of conflict with my body. On the one hand, I don't hate it. I've learned to love it. I've learned to appreciate it. It's my body. It's something I do stuff with. It's okay. I've not reached your level of nirvana. Maybe I will by the end of this podcast. Uh, I've learned to dress for my shape. I've learned to know that I can do how I want. I have great tailors, God bless them. And
And a great sense of style.
why, thank
Woohoo!
you. So I've learned to do that. I've learned to put on makeup. But there are still days when I would get all dressed up in my sexiest dress with my boobs out. Because, hi, one of the good things about being a fat girl, at least for me, I have big breasts, and then I can put them out there, and suddenly everyone's looking only there. Nobody cares about the rest of you. So I go out, and then suddenly I step into the room of all these women who are thin and at least socially approved thin. And, they have straight hair and they wear this tight clothes. And I'm like, shit, why did I fucking bother? No one's even going to look at me. And that's just like, anyway, before I break into a rant, gotta save the rant for later. I have my body, my weight is the site of three things in conflict. One, I'm a feminist. I'm very proud of my feminism. It makes me strong, it makes me powerful. I love it. I fought really long and really hard to love myself and my body, to look at my body with love instead of hate. I don't want that to stop. I can't turn that off. Like, it's impossible. It's not possible. But I'm morbidly obese. I have a family history of heart disease, of diabetes. I'm like borderline pre diabetic. I have constant issues. My knees have started hurting. That's the sign of old age, guys. Uh, and I have to do something about this because here I'm single. Like, who is going to look after me when I'm 60 and I'm bedridden, right? I mean, yeah, sure you, but what if I guess we can be bedridden together? I don't know, but the point is that's something. So I have to break this. I have to start losing this weight. But then comes the third angle, which is somewhere for some reason I believe that love is not for me. I'm not meant to be loved, like truly, and maybe not. I'm not even saying forever, but like proper, full-on romantic, unconditional love. And that's because I'm fat. But what if I lose the weight and I'm still the same way? Is it me? Is something wrong with me? And this is where my mess is
Mm.
around all of this. But on balance, I have learned to be myself, to no longer have patience with a lot of these things that are in my head, a lot of these demons. I've had some great angels in my life who have seriously saved me. There's one of my lovers, which is not a word I can say with a straight face, but he likes it. And he has been amazing. He really led me to loving myself. And my ex boyfriend also, when he would look at me and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm so lucky that you're with me. It helped. It really helped. And getting older and just having way fewer fucks to give, cannot recommend that enough. Hang in there. You will be too old to give any fucks soon enough. Just hang in there, okay? It really helps you stop caring about what people say and all of that. And also, I know I'm good at stuff. I know I have great qualities. And those qualities will be there when I'm old and I'm wrinkly and my tits are saggy and all of that stuff. So it's not that bad. My life is not that bad. What are your angels?
Before I start with the angels, there's something I'd like to say on this whole love and men and, that aspect. There was this very defining moment for me in my marriage because while my husband and I were in love and chose to marry each other, there was this thing about lose your weight and then we'll get married, which I did, but then the weight started increasing steadily post the marriage. For the first 3 years, he even said things to me like, I cannot take you out to where I to my friends because I'm embarrassed by your size and things like that, which was very painful for me. He works in the IT industry, and there was this one day that this gentleman from Brazil, a colleague, came and he brought him home, which I questioned because I was like, dude, he has this really hot gym body Brazilian wife, and you've brought him home, aren't you? You've always said you're embarrassed about me. And he says, no, no, it's going to be okay. And when this man left later that night, my husband told me that, you know what he said about you? He said, I may have a hot wife, but you have a woman you can talk to. And never let go of that. It is something that will stay you for the rest of your life.
That's very sweet, but also kind of ironic considering what happened to your marriage. Sorry.
Yes, why I'm sharing it is because it's a defining moment,
It is. And
you
it's
know?
like a mind bogglingly defining moment that, it's that space of the dirty secret. Like, there's an episode of Sex in the City where Carrie realizes that she's back together with Mr. Big, but she suddenly realizes that no, she's Mr. Big's dirty secret. He doesn't actually take her out on dates. He takes her to Chinese restaurants at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's what you are. That's what you become. You become the person that when I'm with you, it's fine, but when my friends are there, I'm be all different. Because I'm not a trophy wife, I'm not a trophy girlfriend. Except I am. That's the thing. But society doesn't let you see it that way.
Yeah. Now, to come to my angels, right? For me, I think this whole, I have a very deep belief that we are on this planet on a journey. We're learning. Everything that comes our way, every person that comes our way, is for us to grow and develop and learn. And being able to look at whatever has happened to me in that way has really been the biggest support for me. I have worked really hard, but I know today my inner voice is very kind to me.
Yeah.
There are times when I tend to criticize, and that inner voice says, no, baby, it's okay. You know, so that has been a real angel for me. That's all that I would say about my angel. And
Okay, what
what are
about
your
your
demons?
demons?
What about
No, you
yours?
first.
Okay. I think for me, a demon, um, and that too has sort of, the voice is a little muted, is the fear of what if I do fall sick and then I'm
Mm.
alone and nobody takes care of me?
Hmm.
But this fear is muted. And I think the muting of the fear has happened. It's been a process. I remember I told you about this, that it all started when I had to make a choice about my marriage. And while I knew the marriage wasn't working, we'd given it our best shot over the last 2 years, even more. There was this voice inside me which said, but you'll never find anybody to love. You'll be alone. You're never going to have anyone who's as good to you as he was, and so on and so forth. And I really had to look at that voice and say, listen, You are a voice telling me about some possibility in the future. But my today is that this isn't working. And I'm going to act on my today and let that be a thought for the future. And making that conscious choice, I still have demons, I still have fears, but it's a choice.
Okay, well, my demon is a lot like your demon. You are fat. No one will take you seriously. No one will love you. You have no value. You take up space. But I think the difference, perhaps, in the approach between you and me is I don't see it as this is one possibility for the future. Now let's think of positive ones. Because I find it very annoying when I say to someone that, look, I'm 37 and I'm probably going to be single the rest of my life. And like, no, you'll find someone. And I'm like, how do you know? It's like, how do you know you don't? I'm just like, I don't know that I don't. But I need to prepare for that. I don't need to prepare to meet somebody. If I meet somebody, it works out. Woohoo, party, right? So if I'm sitting here and I'm telling myself, nahi, ho jaga. And then what? When it doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen, how do you deal with that? And I personally think that big and runt society is so fucked up about this. I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, I don't need to tell you, but rest of y'all, I mean, it's insane that you could be the most intelligent woman, the most loving woman, but yaar, matlab, my colleagues are not going to be jealous when they see you at the office party. What the fuck? Who cares? Do your colleagues live in your house? And this is an obsession that society has with everything, of course. लोग क्या कहेंगे, लोग क्या कहेंगे, लोग क्या कहेंगे, यार भाड़ में जाने दो लोग. But obviously it doesn't work that way, right? When it comes to being fat, it's really fucked up the way that we are about weight, the way that we are about all these things. But I mean, at the end of the day, I can't help but think that it is what it is. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like, the world is like this. I want the world to change. I hope this podcast is helping the world to change. At least I hope it's helping people to get together and stand up to the world, right? To have other voices that they want to have in the world. But society is not going to change overnight. It might change in 150 years. It's far more important that we need to learn to work around it, to learn to live with it, to learn to accept ourselves, make our safe and happy spaces, build our armor, and be like, ha, say what you want, man, fuck off. I'm not listening to you. That is what we need to do. And like that is where I think you and I will have interesting conversations because I don't know how positivity fits into that. End rant.
You know, you make such a point. At the same time, for me, my whole belief in this is that it's a completely inside job for us. That irrespective of what the world may say to us, and it's not just about being fat, it's about every other thing which is seen as outside of the norm and therefore to be brought into the norm, the moment we claim our inner voice, the moment we claim our inner voice saying to us that, yes, I love you, the moment we claim all those rejected, sad, sorry, shamed parts of us, my experience has been that life changes. My experience has been that you start expressing yourself differently, you start being more courageous, you start being more authentic, you start, just taking on those opportunities. So whether today I'm single, I'm 40, I'm doing
Yeah,
something, for myself, which may work, may not work, I'm not judging any of that based on the fact that I'm fat. You
true,
know, I'm a
true.
person, I'm living my life, I'm loving me, I'm loving my life. And perhaps, you said that I have reached nirvana. I don't think I have reached nirvana,
Oh, I don't know.
but I'm definitely in a much happier space. And
Look, don't get me wrong. I'm in a happier space than I have been in the past, of course. But
yes,
all I'm trying to say here is I just think that your happy space is your space. It's a space that you control. But no matter what you do, the space is going to bang up against society. And society is a dick. So you have to be prepared for that. That's kind of all I'm saying. So one of the things we wanted to try and do as part of this is when we talk about these things between ourselves, we hope that by the end of it we come upon some sort of thought or idea that or tiny piece of insight or whatever that we each feel about what we've discussed. And we're calling this bit reflections. So, Pallavi, do you have any reflections for today?
I think, first of all, fabulous talk, as always. It always brings up something. Um, I would love if, in this whole process of talking to each other, I would love if we could more and more step into the fact that we too are part of society. So when we bump into
Yeah.
society, we bump into each other as well. And in this bumping, there's a lot of love, there's acceptance, there's honesty, and we too are part of society,
Yeah, I had
you
an
know?
aunt who was also fat, and when she hugged me, we used to say bump bump bump.
Yes.
I
So for
think,
me, just this understanding that yes, there's a big bad world out there and there's a lot of shit that we could choose to accept as who we are, but also there's a lot of good within us. And then there are a lot of beautiful people that we can also meet who comfort us.
this is beautiful, but I'm calling a little bit of a foul on this one, because that is not a reflection that you got from this current episode. That's just your philosophy. So, faith. My reflection, I think, is that maybe I have a little more anger than I thought I did around all of this, which is kind of coming out, which is good. I mean, it's always important to know these things. So that's it, I think, for today. There you have it. You can see on this podcast, we're going to talk about all sorts of things that relate to being fat women, sometimes fat men, body positivity, clothes, food, doctors, party season. We also do want to say, for the record, that we are aware that this is coming out of our personal experience, and our personal experience comes with its privileges, and we can't speak for those who don't have them, and we understand that there's a lot of stuff out there that we can't experience. So we are by no means a definitive experience, but it is an experience, and we hope some of it will resonate.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram as Fatso Podcast. I wish when I was younger and when I was growing up or when I was going through my highs and lows, I had something like this to listen to.
Yeah.
And I truly, truly hope that we will be able to reach out and that if you're listening, that you talk to us as well
Yes.
and tell us your experiences, tell us how you feel. We have lots of exciting episodes to come up, and we would love to know what you want to hear.
Yes, please let us know what you think. Give us podcast ideas, clothes recommendations. Scream at us. Tell us we're right. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us how you feel. You can find us, like Pallavi said, on Facebook and Instagram at Fatso Podcast. I recommend Instagram.